It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Vinya Ariyaratne. Vinya is the Executive Director of Sarvodaya, Sri Lanka's largest community development organization. Welcome to the show, Vinya.
Thank you.
We are doing a series on what I call the economics of the IDPs. We've had Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe and Jeevan Tyagaraja previously. I want to talk to you specifically about the role Sarvodaya is playing in these displaced camps. Tell me a little bit about how Sarvodaya has been involved, because I understand long before the end of the conflict, you were in the north and these conflict areas. Tell us, if you could please, how the situation has changed in the last several weeks or so, and what the greatest challenges are.
Okay, so as you described earlier, Sarvodaya has had a presence in the northern areas for a very long time,
right.
For more than 4 decades actually. Even before the trouble started in the north and the east, we had a presence as a development movement.
Yeah.
And particularly in the north, we have been doing various development and peace-related work for a very long time, even before the start of the violent phase of the conflict. And we have had a presence on the ground with local staff who have been engaged in development work. So during the last few months, when there was an escalation of the conflict and the intensity increased, and with a large number of IDPs coming towards the government controlled areas, of course we had to respond quickly along with the other organizations who were present on the ground. So we had the advantage of being a local organization, national organization, which has had tremendous amount of experience, not in normal development work, but also, as you know, during tsunami and any other conflict situation, disaster situation, we could respond quickly.
Yes.
Because we have competent staff and also the ground resources to mobilize ourselves quickly. So since January, we have been involved in the relief program to cater to the needs of the IDPs. As you know, there was a slow influx during January and February, March. Then, of course, the sudden large influx which came towards the end of April. If I am not mistaken, on the 21st of April, there was a very large influx, more than 100,000 people. And we had been working very closely with the government agencies as well as the other NGOs and the UN system. And our response had been in several key areas. One is, of course, feeding the people. Immediate need was for food. So our volunteers and also the people from Sarvodaya villages in Vavuniya got together, and for weeks they were cooking in our centers and distributing the food. Then once they were little bit settled, they were then helped to have community kitchens within the camps. Then we went into other areas like water and sanitation in a very big way. We have constructed hundreds of latrines and also provided water points in those camps. Then, of course, when the settlement was more or less concentrated in Manik Farm, then we have had a large involvement where water sanitation, then of course the food, as well as now going into areas like health and nutrition.
Okay, I have several questions. Now, when you say you have been involved in the Manik Farm camp, are you saying you are physically, your people are physically inside this facility?
Very much so, very much so.
Right, and they are helping out with the cooking of...
Yes, it's like this, Harsha. Now, there is a certain mechanism put in place by the government. There is a competent authority, and there is a certain organizational structure.
Right.
So we can.
That is competent authority is who?
Yes, General Chandrasiri, and so there is a system in place where they have given responsibilities to various government officials for different sectors, food, non-food items, water and sanitation, and so on.
Right.
So there are lead government agencies which are on the ground. So we have to work in partnership. So we are involved in all the planning that goes in also, because there are committees and clusters formed.
Right.
And then regularly there are meetings that we have to participate.
Yeah, just let me interrupt you there. When you say you plan together with the state, when you say we, I mean, who are these people?
There are more than 30, 40 organizations,
Right.
humanitarian organizations,
Right.
local as well as international. There are only a few large national organizations on the ground, but
Right.
there are other international organizations as well as UN agencies.
Right.
UNHCR, UNICEF, WHO, UN OPS, and many organizations are already on the ground working. There are issues with regard to access and so on.
Yeah.
But I think there is a degree of freedom within which we operate to this date. Therefore, we were able to really meet to a great extent the needs of the population.
So these planning meetings happen in Colombo, and then
No. They are very much in Vavuniya on site. In fact, the competent authority is having daily meetings, daily at 4 o'clock, which is a forum where all the humanitarian agencies get a chance to interact with him and bring up problems and issues.
So you are trying to say that this is inclusive process, that the government and the humanitarian agencies, both international and local, meet together on sort of a daily basis and plan out the game plan, I guess, for
Correct. But I would say that it's not optimal at the moment, but I think it's a very good structure to start with.
Right.
There can be a lot of improvements. I think there has to be certain other mechanisms that have to be in place to improve the service delivery. A lot can be improved, but what I'm saying is there is a mechanism in place already through which we were able to achieve what we have been able to achieve thus far.
Right. So now something that is striking in this whole situation, a contrast really, is I remember when you or Sarvodaya started the post-tsunami relief work. Millions of dollars started flowing in, not just to Sarvodaya but to all other agencies. But in this crisis, which is supposedly the world's largest internally displaced crisis currently, see hardly any international support in terms of dollars for food and for healthcare coming in. Is that a fair assessment? Or?
Yeah, I think it's like this, Harsh. I think the two situations cannot be also compared easily. I mean, tsunami was a natural disaster and it was a sudden occurrence, whereas this crisis is a rather chronic crisis. Although there was a sudden large influx of IDPs, then also this is conflict related IDPs, and there had been concerns with regard to violations of people's rights, and whether certain governments have been trying to negotiate a less sort of violent resolution of the conflict.
Yeah.
So I think the political element here is much stronger compared to tsunami.
Right.
So then even the aid agencies now and the compassion that we see, I think it's still there. There is a lot of people who want to help, both governments, international aid agencies and ordinary public, just like tsunami.
Yeah, but then we don't hear of this.
No, the thing is that the mechanism to get it to the ground is not in place. People have concerns, the foreign governments have concerns about how soon these people will be resettled, whether access is there for all the humanitarian agencies. So there are concerns. So without a guarantee that these concerns are addressed, lot of donors are reluctant to come in and help in this immediate relief operation. So what as civil society organizations, and especially as development organizations which have been established in the country for a long time, we have been trying to actually bring this understanding amongst the key decision makers, both in the humanitarian sector as well as in the government, try to work together in partnership, address those real concerns.